Stampers, welcome to the craft room. Today I'd like to show you how to make this quick and easy birthday card that has a pull-out insert as opposed to your traditional folded card. I like this a lot because you can also sneak a gift card or something else in this little pocket. So let's get started. We're going to start with our ribbon. This is the organza whisper white ribbon, and you'll see here that it's actually more mustard, so let me show you quickly how to do that. And we're doing this first just because it takes a little bit of time for the ribbon to dry. We're just going to take our more mustard classic ink, and we're going to take a more mustard sponge, and we're just going to press the ribbon against the ink pad and pull. And you can do this multiple times depending on how dark you want the color to be. And we're also going to do this on both sides. So again, let me get that end and just hold the ribbon against the ink pad using your sponge and pull. And then we're going to turn this over and we're going to do it to the other side. Your fingers may get a little bit inky doing this, but what fun is it if you don't have inky fingers? So just a couple times, and this will lighten a bit as it dries, so you may want to put a little bit more color on it, but that's pretty good. So I'm just going to set that aside to dry, and we're going to work on the card itself. We're going to take a piece of Pacific Point cardstock, and this piece is 4 1/4 by 11. I scored it in half, so at the 5 1/2 mark, and then on one of the ends I came in 1 1/2 and I scored it again because that's going to be the flap that's going to fold down in front. So hopefully you can see that this is going to be the back of the card and this is going to be the front flap. And now we're going to take this 1 1/2 inch flap and we're just going to tear the edge of it. And don't worry, it doesn't need to be straight or anything like that. It just needs to be unique. And if you want, you can come in with your bone folder just to give that a nice hard crease so that it stays down. And we're going to crease this part of the card as well. So that's all set. The next thing we're going to do is stamp the little stars. So we're just going to use the Pacific Point ink pad and randomly stamp stars on this part of the card. And that looks quite cute. I'm going to put one right here. You might want to kind of check when you fold it over if you have stars up by the fold. We're going to set that aside. So I took a piece of more mustard cardstock, and this piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and a piece of very vanilla cardstock, and this piece is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And we're going to go ahead and stamp a few stars in the corners. And I like to stamp this before I adhere it just in case something goes terribly wrong with my stamping. So I just stamp 3 in the upper right corner and 3 in the lower left corner just to give the insert a little bit of pizzazz. And then I like to use my Tombow Mono multi-glue to adhere these layers together. I'm a big fan of this economical way of adhering layers as opposed to using double-sided adhesive. And we're just adhering that down by pressing those 2 layers together. So let's set that aside and let's get to work on our little pennant. To do this, we are going to need a scrap of very vanilla cardstock. We are also going to need some stamps from the Pennant Parade stamp set. And what I want to do is, for this stamp, just get this outside scallop area. So I'm going to use my Pacific Point marker, and I'm just going to color in that portion of the stamp. So I'm not going to color in the dots. And you just want to huff on that before you stamp and stamp it down. Now if you happen to have the pennant punch, good for you. I don't have it yet, so I actually am going to cut out this little pennant with all of its scallops. Okay. So we're just going to set that aside, and now what we're going to do is stamp the inner pennant. So I'm just going to use the Pacific Point ink pad and stamp that down. And the next thing I'm going to do before I cut it out is actually stamp the greeting. And you can do this with your Stamp-A-Majig. I am just going to freehand it and see what happens. And we're using the Wish Big stamp from the same Pennant Parade stamp set. So I'm happy with that. Again, if you want it to be perfectly centered, you can use your Stamp-A-Majig. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out nice and close to those little perforated lines or dashed lines. Great. And now we are going to just use a dimensional to pop that up. And I don't know about you, but I like to use all of my dimensionals, so I'll use even these tiny pieces, but I'll cut them not with either my craft and rubber scissors or a scissor that isn't important to me so I don't get adhesive all over it. And we're just going to pop that up right in the center. There we go. And now we're going to use our paper piercing tool and our little piercing mat just to create a little hole right in the top. And I like to pierce and then kind of twist this around because we're going to be putting a piece of crochet thread right in the middle there. And I actually like to do this from the back also, just to widen that hole just a little bit. And our piece of crochet thread, which I don't know, this is like, how many inches? Like 5 inches long. I'm just going to thread through that hole for now and set that aside. And now we're going to go back and take our card and we're going to pick up our dyed ribbon and we're just going to go ahead and knot it. And you want to knot it to hold down this flap. And so I just go left over right, and then I have one at 12 o'clock and one at 6 o'clock, and then I bring the 6 o'clock one up and around over the one that was at 12 o'clock, and I pull through and hope that it works and hope that magic is on my side. So that seemed to work pretty well, and I'm just going to clean up those edges a little bit with my ribbon scissors just because they're fraying a tiny bit. So we'll just clear that up and we will shorten that one. And now we are going to take our little Wish Big and I'm just going to take the crochet thread underneath the knot and on top of the knot, and I'm going to knot it. We're just going to snip off these ends of crochet thread. Great. And our card gets tucked in the pocket. Now if you're going to put a gift card in here, please remember that these ends are open, so you may want to use just a tiny dab of glue right along the edges. And again, you can leave this free floating, or I like to take a mini glue dot and let's find one. There we are. I just like to take a mini glue dot, put it on the back to hold it down so it doesn't float around. And there you have it, a really adorable birthday card. That's fun and easy to make. You can imagine that you can use this same design to make all kinds of really fun cards. I hope you've enjoyed this project, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon here in the craft room.